You're watching BCTV, Brranford's Community Access Station.
And we welcome you to our live election night coverage of the 2023 municipal elections here in Brranford, Connecticut.
Good evening. I'm Lonnie Reed. The polls are about to close, and we are happy you are joining us for live results as ballot counts begin arriving here in, I think, about a half an hour. BCTV is covering the election live tonight from our BCTV studios here on Kirkham Street, right in the heart of Brranford.
Thank you, Lonnie. It's a pleasure to be doing this with you again this year.
You.
Let's welcome our guests, people at home. First, I'd like to introduce someone who's very familiar with Brranford, very familiar with BCTV, and very familiar with running for office in Brranford. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome back Mr. Frank Toohill. Frank, our Republican analyst. Great to have you back.
Thank you so much, Leon. That was a great introduction. It's so great to be back here with everyone, with Tracy, with Lonnie again, and with you and the great staff here that we have working in this room and also in the back room, you know, on this great cable cast. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much. And we're also streaming tonight, too. We're trying to keep up with the times here on BCTV. And to those of you who are watching us on YouTube, please, please, please hit the subscribe button. Next, we'd like to introduce another broadcast professional.
Yeah,
why don't you do that?
We're always happy to have Tracy Everson with us. She's, as we all know, involved in local politics, running for re-election. Both of you are running for re-election, so especially thank you for showing up tonight.
It's a pleasure.
And Tracy is our Democratic analyst for tonight's election coverage. Welcome back, Tracy.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always great to be here and to talk about local elections, which never get much coverage from the big stations. So we're very glad that BCTV is putting the time and effort into this.
Well, this is where the little stations come to the rescue.
Exactly,
right?
yes.
People want to know what's happening in Brranford tonight.
Absolutely.
So we welcome our viewers to our coverage once again this evening from BCTV studios here in Brranford. We will have live reports from both Republican and Democrat headquarters. For tonight, Republican headquarters is at Lenny's Restaurant on Route 146, where Ray Dunbar from the Republican Party will give us live reports this evening.
Ingraham, sir.
No. It switched at the last. You were right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've got the. I'm talking the Democrat.
Right.
There are two Rays. That's what happens when you have two people in the field, two Rays giving live reports. I mixed up the last name, so I hope that's the last mix-up tonight. So from Republican headquarters, it will be Ray Ingraham providing those live reports for us. Lonnie, who's going to be at Democrat headquarters for us?
And tonight, the Democrats are actually headquartered at Kamana, which is a newly opened Indian restaurant in downtown Brranford. Kamana is owned by RTM member Ram Shareska, who is running for re-election to that post, and for the Board of Education as well. Brranford's Democratic Party Chair Kevin Coughlin.
Nope, that's where the other Ray comes in. They made a switch at the last minute.
Ray Dunbar, who is actually our third selectman now, and he's running in the selectman's race. So whether he stays third or he moves up, or we don't know. So that'll be really interesting, and so we're really happy that Ray's going to. I know he's busy tonight, but we're glad that he's giving us some time as well.
Yeah, we'd like to thank both Rays in advance for the work that they're doing for us tonight, helping us to get the information out to the people who want to know it. So coming up in a few minutes, Lonnie, we're going to have an interview with the former Secretary of the State, Denise Merrill, that you did recently. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think, as many people who remember her, I think she served for 12 years, very few people know more about elections and election laws than Denise Merrill. She headed also the National Association of Secretaries of State, in addition to serving as Connecticut's Secretary of the State for 12 years. And she'll give us a feeling of how elections are maybe changing in the country and whether national trends are impacting Connecticut.
I think we've all had a feeling recently of how things in the world of politics have changed, I would say, in the past 5 to 10 years in ways that we did not expect or think we would foresee that the way they are today. And that's what makes this all very interesting tonight, why this election is so important ahead of the presidential election that's going to happen next year. So we look forward to that story in a few minutes. So let's get that ballot graphic up on the screen so we can start talk about who is running for office. In column 1, can we get that up so that the viewers can see that? There we go. This should look very familiar.
This should look very familiar.
Yes.
We can see Jamie Cosgrove is running unopposed. I think this is the second time that he's run unopposed.
Hold on just a second, Lonnie. So just to direct people on the screen, for people who vote and for those who don't, look at column 1. It's to the left, right next to where it says Democrat and Republican Party. And there you can see, if you read it from top to bottom, Jamie is the only one in that column. Running unopposed, that's what we mean by that. So that's what's happening there. And then in column 2, before we move on to column 2, our analysts. What do you have to say about column 1?
You want to give a little sense of, so what does this mean that Jamie is continuing first for the GOP? We'll start first with
Well,
you.
I mean, right. So, right. He's running unopposed again this year. He also ran unopposed 4 years ago. And, I mean, Jamie runs Brranford apolitical. He does not do politics. I mean, he makes decisions based on what he believes is in the best interest of the town. And if you look at the boards and commissions, they are staffed by, lots of Democrats. I mean, he picks the best people he can pick. And so, he's the first, I guess, to win tonight. I mean, even though the polls are still open for another 20 minutes, he's going to win tonight. I mean, it's guaranteed. He's the only one running.
Well, yeah, but that's that guarantee in that running unopposed thing.
Yeah.
And I have to say, just before I ask Tracy about her input, we did an interview with Jamie. I think that people are going to find very interesting because he really talks about, what this has meant to him being for selectment for going on 12 years.
He's been in 10 years now. This is going to be his 6th 2-year term.
It's kind of it's a look of that we don't often get of him because he's always waiting around and he really is very reflective. So it's pretty interesting interview.
That'll be great.
So what do you think the impact is, Tracy?
Well, I think it's the fact that the Democrats did not have a first selectman candidate. The focus for us in this election was on trying to take back the representative town meeting. I serve as the Democratic minority leader, and the Republicans have the majority. So when you have a Republican administration, Jamie's a Republican-led RTM, it would be great, we Democrats think, if there were checks and balances, because I think it gives more voices to the conversation and what could happen in town. So, we'll see what happens in the next 2 years.
Tracy, something that Frank said. Frank said that he felt Jamie has done a good job of recruiting a team where there was any sort of partisan preference. If you did the job well and for the position that he needed you, that's who Frank says got the job. Do you think that Jamie has operated in that fashion?
Well, from a different perspective,
yes.
Oftentimes, as I understand it, people were asked to become unaffiliated in order to serve. So there's great volunteers in this town. There's so many opportunities to volunteer. I don't want to discourage anyone who's interested in getting involved in what's happening locally in town, because all of us, even on the RTM, we're all volunteers. We're unpaid. And we spend a lot of time and effort, and a lot of people do in this town, to contribute. So that's just a different perspective. I'm not inside with the Cosgrove team. I'm a Democrat, so it's a different perspective.
Thank you so much, and that's why we have you both here, because there are as many perspectives on the situation tonight and on days moving forward as there are people living in Brranford. So.
It's going to be. I just wanted to say, Leon, it's going to be very interesting to see, once the polls close, as Tracy said, how the RTM shakes out. Yeah. Currently, there's 19 Republicans on the RTM, and there's 11 Democrats, so it's 30 members. So we'll see what brings forth tonight.
We'll see if we can put together a quick total to see if there's been a change in that ratio before we wrap up the show tonight. So, but let's keep the show moving. Let's go back to that ballot graphic. In column 2, running for Board of Selectmen, we have Democrat Ray Dunbar Jr. running against Republican Angie Higgins. Tracy, for our viewers who are wondering how the Board of Selectmen functions here in Brranford, please explain how the selectmen elected tonight will work with First Selectman Jamie Cosgrove.
The First Selectman chooses a running mate, so to speak. Angie Higgins took over from her husband, Joe Higgins, the late Joe Higgins, who served also on the Board of Selectmen. And this is her second or third term that she's running for.
This tonight is term number 2.
Okay.
She came in on Joe's term,
Right.
Then she ran her own right last time, and now she's running again on her own. Yeah.
Right. So both of them have been reelected even before the night is over, because there are 3 members of the Board of Selectmen.
Exactly.
And there's always a minority representation, which would be Selectman Dunbar.
Yes.
Frank, anything you want to add to that balance of power in the Office of Selectmen?
Well, I would say, Leon, I oftentimes go to the meetings, and, Cosgrove does a great job as the First Selectman. He conducts the first, the meetings, and, they debate the issues. They sometimes have a fairly long agenda. They last maybe an hour, but Angie speaks, she speaks her mind, and then we hear from Selectman Ray Dunbar, and he also, speaks his mind, and then they vote, and they usually vote all together yes. So, it's a good board. They're all working together.
It sounds like they get things done.
They do get things done, Leon. That's an excellent way to put it.
And I see Tracy nodding her head, too, so something's working.
Yeah, I think that all of us, regardless of party affiliation, always consider what we think is best for the town.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't really matter as much locally what your party affiliation is. It's more about what you think either your constituents want or what you think would be best for Brranford.
I just wanted to say that, I have seen this with my own eyes over the years. Jamie enjoys great respect by both parties. Like when you talk about Jamie Cosgrove, you speak highly of him. There's nothing political about Jamie. He's not a politician. So that's my point. He's very well respected on both sides of the aisle.
Well, I should say also, years ago, when I was a news reporter at Channel 3 in Hartford, Jamie's grandfather, Daniel Cosgrove, was a major Democrat.
I know.
And you didn't run for office in the state. You couldn't run for governor. You couldn't run for anything unless he was one of the people you talked to first.
No, it's true. In fact, back in those days, you're absolutely right. Big in the state. The other one was from New Haven, Arthur Barbieri. And so they sometimes clashed because they didn't always, but they were big. You're right. Big in the state. And also, as far as the grandfather, big in the town. He and John Sliney took office from the first selectman before Sliney was Mr. Hollibird. He was a Republican, and that was in 1963. And they held the office. It was a team. It was the grandfather and Sliney. It was a team for over 21 years. But they kept the taxes low, and they also did a good job.
And they saved the supply pond.
And they saved the supply. They bought the
supply. It's now open space because
They bought the supply
They-
pond.
yeah.
It was excess land owned by the water company.
It was on their watch.
What they did was they paid the supply pond cost the taxpayers $1,000 an acre. It was only $365,000 for the acreage. It was a wonderful thing that And then they also bought the quarry,
That's right.
the Stony Creek Quarry.
That's right.
That's another outstanding asset
Yeah.
that we have.
Frank, if no one's told you today, when it comes to Brranford, you are a wealth
Oh, thank you
of
so much.
historical information.
Thank you. Well,
Yes.
you got the broadcast experience, so
No,
we're a good
but-
team.
but-
you know?
but- we need you
And you
here
do
on-
too?
we
And
need
you do too?
here
Oh,
with
good,
Tracy
that's
on
good.
Nights like tonight.
Good, that's good.
All
Good
right,
to hear, Leon.
Lonnie, you want to pick up on to letting
Yeah,
the viewers know?
so-
Let's get that ballot graphic back
Yeah,
up
let's get that
again.
ballot graphic back. And
Because we're up to column
we're
3
there.
right
We're
now.
there. So
Lonnie,
we're
you
moving
take
up
it
to
on
column 3. Republican Lisa Arpin is running unopposed for town clerk. So congratulations to Lisa on her victory this evening.
She also has previously run unopposed, so this is not the first time for her either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not her first rodeo.
And in column number 4, we have the race for town treasurer. For the Democrats, Kurt Schwanfelder is the candidate, and for the Republicans, we have the incumbent, Deborah Conklin.
Can I say that? So this is what happened with that. Now, as I said before, Jamie ran unopposed 2 terms ago, 4 years ago. He ran unopposed, and the treasurer at that time was Kurt. So this is a rematch between the incumbent now, Deborah Conklin, and Kurt. Now, Kurt lost. Hold on, I'm trying to. It's a rematch. Between those two. So Kurt wants his position back. He wants to become treasurer again. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, and I wanted to bring this up because I think you probably would have something to say about this, and I know, Tracy, you do. And it should be pointed out here that Brranford's critically important tax collector job is no longer an elected position. It was decided to make that an appointed job to remove it from what can become the rough and tumble of politics. And so Brranford's current tax collector, we don't know if he's the future, you'll explain that to us, is Robert Imperato. He won election last time, that's how he got into the job. And he has a banking and finance background. And what's his future look like?
His elected term ends the end of this year. And then it's up to the administration to do whatever they, interview.
put out an RFP. The RFP goes out, yeah.
They'll post the position.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Bob Imperato will apply for it. He's had great success bringing it up the tax revenue collection number to like 99%. 99.8 or something like that. I think he recently told the Board of Finance. So Brranford's finances are in good shape.
That's remarkable.
The other thing, this is the reason why they made the switch. There was an ordinance the RTM passed, to change that, because the tax collector was always on the ballot, always an elected position.
Right.
But you got to get your certification from the state,
and that can take
and it
3
takes
years,
and it's very expensive. So
longer than a term.
Yes, that's true.
So it makes sense to have someone in there who is. I think it's also a trend that's happening in towns to make the people who are running the town or employed by the town in these specific jobs, like tax collector. It's evolved tremendously. All of the information and the things that office now needs to do. That having someone who is a professional has that training already, they can come in and start day one.
So what happened again, right? So Bob Imperato, the incumbent tax collector, beat Bobby Gill 2 years ago. Now, she had become certified. She got the certification, but it took her, as it does everyone, it took her, I think, almost 4 years, to get the certification. So you can't do
during
it
the
in one term.
pandemic too.
And during the pandemic. So.
And Tracy and Frank, I just want to say that we really do greatly appreciate what you both bring to our election coverage, because
Thank you.
We tell the viewers, and as is expected of us, we do our best to be fair and balanced, and you help us so much in that respect. Now, earlier, I told viewers about an interview Lonnie did recently with former Connecticut Secretary of the State, Denise Merrill. Lonnie, what did you two ladies talk about?
Well, Leon.
Oh, shucks.
It's so interesting, and it's an ongoing issue that municipal elections to choose the people who govern our towns and cities are the ones that can most immediately impact our quality of life. And yet the turnouts for local elections are often disappointing. Our former Secretary of the State, Denise Merrill, is well known for her tireless efforts to increase voter participation. And so we decided to explore her thoughts on why municipal turnouts continue to lag behind those for state and national elections. You know, what are some of the things that you discovered along the way of why people, I mean, particularly in municipal elections, it's so concerning that sometimes people don't show up. I mean, there's a real low turnout.
That's right. The lowest turnout is at the level of government that you can most impact, which is very ironic. What's also ironic is that I really think the American people care deeply about their vote. You see that over and over again as we fight over who gets to vote, why they get to vote, where they get to vote. And you're seeing they're literally wars sometimes played out over, should we have days of early voting? Should we be able to vote by absentee ballot? And yet, when it comes right down to it, they sort of trust that the whole system will just keep going whether they vote or not. And that's a mistake. Those of us who are kind of on the inside and believe in government and believe in the roles that government has to play, we know that. But people forget, I think, that democracy depends on everyone participating. And I think we've gotten maybe a little bit just lazy, sort of. I mean, just kind of figuring, oh, well, things will always go along the way they are. My vote doesn't really matter anyway. And nothing could be further from the truth.
You know, another thing that we hear a lot about is sort of the decline in civility. That and you hear people now, I mean, going out and trying to get people to run for office now, and we're hearing more and more in our local community, oh, I don't know. I don't think I should expose my family to that. I don't think I want to invite that kind of anger into my life, and are you seeing this? I mean, this was one of the things you guys were discussing when you were president of the Secretary of the
That's right. Absolutely. And it's shocking how quickly that has turned around. I was president of the National Association in 2016 when the big presidential election happened that year. And that marked the beginning of a whole new atmosphere in elections. And that's happening even in small towns. I can think of some small towns around the state that right now are struggling with keeping their town councils from becoming just shouting matches. And that has never happened before. We've always had very civilized politics in Connecticut. We've had lots of difference of opinion, but it was never expressed in personal terms and personal attacks on people running for office. These are volunteer jobs. I'm not sure the public understands that. I think maybe they think people are getting paid lots of money to do these things. Not so. They are mostly, for the most part, 90% voluntary. And people join things like boards of education because they have children in the schools and they want to make sure the school stays high quality in their town. I mean, I started on a board of education. That was my first race. I actually lost my first race. I always like to tell people that because, you shouldn't let that discourage you from becoming a candidate. Because as you know, I mean, we were both served together. It's an incredible experience. And I'm hoping this time passes, honestly. Maybe people will just get so fed up with this kind of behavior that they'll start punishing people at the polls, which is where you should punish them. Just don't vote for those folks. So those are the kinds of things that I think municipalities are dealing with. They're dealing with real life, right on the ground.
Thank you.
Oh, the polls are almost closed.
So I think viewers will be happy to know that thus far we haven't heard any drama out there, any incivility.
I wanted to go to our two analysts because they attend the RTM meetings. But, we heard what the former Secretary of the State said. For what happens typically at Brranford RTM meetings? Because I know we've all seen news clips of town council meetings that get out of control. Does that happen here in Brranford?
Well, our last special meeting was quite interesting. Got a little personal between two RTM members. Ooh. But in general, a lot of the business of the RTM is done during our committee meetings, which people don't necessarily see unless they attend. So if you really are interested in an issue that's coming up before the representative town meeting, your best thing to do would be to attend that meeting, to hear the discussion that goes on, and then the answers that we get between that committee meeting and the RTM meeting. A lot of our business at the RTM meetings is simply taking a vote.
I see.
But
what do you both being from your respective parties here in town, how do candidates feel that the voting public or non-voting public, the public in general, how are people in office in Brranford received by the public? Because we've all seen examples of the lack of civility from different places around the country.
What I would say, Leon, is that the RTM is very civil. I mean, there isn't any back and forth, as you say, the yelling. I mean, I don't know what the former Secretary of State was, talking about, which town she was specifically mentioning, but it's not like that in Brranford. I mean, everybody listens to each other, and no. At the end of the meeting, there's public comment, so the public can come into the RTM meeting and they can say anything they want. And there are, over the past few years, there's been speakers, and they've spoken their mind, but that's their right to do that, but as a whole, it's been very civil, Leon.
Another thing that you and the Secretary of the State mentioned in the story you just did, Lonnie, was the way voter turnout is down, particularly in a year like this. We've heard it's down again tonight, as expected. Lonnie, what was the number that we just spoke with the registrars before we got on air?
Well, it was 29 moving to 30, and they think maybe 30. It'll end up being 35.
50%?
Yeah, 35%
yes, 35% turnout.
By the time voting, by now, when the polls just closed.
Okay, so now as turnout goes, let me just say that, Jamie was running unopposed. Now, 4 years ago when he ran unopposed, there was a light turnout as well. The people, since they're aware that he's going to stay on as first select, when some people don't come out to the polls, they say, I like the status quo, I don't have to, go out to the poll. So there's about 21,000 eligible voters that could have voted today. And in 2021, now this is when Jamie was opposed by Tom Brockett, 8,200 people voted, a turnout of 38%. Now, 4 years ago when he ran, it was only 31% turned out to vote. So, as you said, Leon, tonight, 23, he's unopposed. So, again, it should be light.
Now, I remember the registrar mentioned another year where Jamie ran with opposition, and the turnout was closer to 50%.
Yes.
We heard that.
Well,
yeah, that was
recently.
2 years ago.
50% turnout.
Yeah.
In 2013, that was the highest. That's when he ran against Andy Campbell, his first election, and it was 43%. But it was 39 in 15, 30 in 17, 32 in 19, and 38 in 21.
Right. So Lonnie, you do know that. We want to keep it moving because we know that those totals are going to start coming in.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of bases we wanted to make sure we covered tonight.
But I can tell you, turnout, this year for the first time, there is, at the polling places, they have laptops. So when you go in to vote, that's also being recorded, and the town chairs could see that, and so voters could be contacted today. So I know the Democrats, the numbers I just got was that there were 6,900 people who voted today, about 34%.
So we're
is
up to
the
34.
turnout.
Because at 6
34.
o'clock we were at
Yes.
29.9
Yeah, they
change.
thought it was going to hit 35.
Yeah,
but-
they had
Right.
to-
So that's okay.
That's,
Well,
you know, that's pretty good.
That's
That is
That's
pretty
respectable,
good.
yeah.
Yes.
But as the Secretary of the State said, for democracy to work,
Yeah.
it works best when everyone is out. So
Right.
That's true.
we're 65% short of the mark.
Yeah.
But you hear about other places, you know, and it's like a 15% turnout. So, I mean, this is, you know, it's true. It should be everybody.
We're
That's what.
twice as involved as that. in
Yeah,
Brranford.
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we also had one of our BCTV interviewers today going around town trying to get from voters what they cared about and why this election was important
And
to
why
them.
they turned out.
Why
and
they
why
turned
they
out.
turned out. Yeah. Casey Nedelka is actually a student at Quinnipiac University, and she's really been terrific helping us. So let's see what that's about.
So many people have said that they will not be voting this year. Can you tell me why you decided to come out to vote?
Because we should come out to vote. It's our right, and we should take it seriously and do it.
And we have a good town here, and we want to keep it that way.
Every time we vote, it's our right, it's our privilege as citizens, and we have to try to change this country to get it on a better track.
Voting for me this year was most important for the Board of Ed.
Rain, snow, I don't care what it is, I always come out to vote.
Why do you think it's important for people to vote in local elections?
Because that's where you really have the most say.
We have to try to control what happens from the bottom up in terms of our government and keep our town on track.
We live in the town, and we want to make sure that the community is growing and it's financially managed correctly. And
This is politics that involves what's going on in our day-to-day lives in town.
It seemed like a lot of cars. So.
Well, we just got a report while that story was running that in District 4, there were 1,100 in-person voters today. I'm going to throw this one back at our analysts. What does that number mean to you guys? Is that active? Or more active than usual? Less, more or less? Tell us which.
Well, I mean, for District 4, right? That's the Brranford Hills School?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's the area above Short Beach and below 95.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think
There's a
that's
lot
pretty
of
good.
voters in that district in
Condos.
particular, and they have usually a larger turnout. Also in the 5th district, where I'm a representative, and I'll find out, I guess, tonight whether or not I was reelected.
We wish you both well.
Thank you. There is generally a very strong turnout in the 5th district as well.
What are you two hearing from voters about what's important to them today? Start with Frank.
I would say that that they want to maintain the course. They like Brranford. They love Brranford. They love everything about it. They love the low taxes. They love the all the infrastructure that Jamie and the Board of Finance are doing. The RTM is approving. The animal shelter is like the first carbon net zero animal shelter in the country. It came out really nice. And all the different things like the splash pad, which I think was paid for by the Foot Trust, that didn't even cost the taxpayers. And there's a new plan for parks that's coming out. And I mean, everyone I talk to, they're happy. They don't have any complaints about Brranford. The police, the fire, they like it all.
Tracy, what are you hearing?
One of the issues I heard when I was out knocking doors was a lot of people say safer streets.
Yeah.
A lot of people would like to see more sidewalks in Brranford. They'd really like people to slow down. We have a lot of these flashing signs. There's one here on Kirkham, right outside the studio here. 7,000 cars a day travel on Kirkham, if you can believe it. That's what the police department said. And there's a flashing, some people call it the speed shame sign, but it does remind people to slow down because I'm over in the Brranford Point neighborhood off of Maple. Maple's a thoroughfare, and
Yes.
people are going 40, 50 miles an hour, and it's really a 25.
And sadly,
So,
I think each one of us every day sees someone texting while driving if you bother to look at the
right,
people.
yeah.
That's
So, I mean,
scary.
that's a
right.
real concern for people in town, and you don't really find that out unless you go to the people, because they're not coming to the Board of Selectmen necessarily. Maybe they're going to the traffic committee of the police commission. Maybe they're speaking to RTM representatives like us to express those concerns. But that is often what I would hear from people. It's a common complaint.
And Lonnie, as a former state representative representing the area where Brranford is, and as someone who still lives in Brranford, and as someone who I know has her finger on the pulse of the community. Thump, thump, thump.
Well, you're laying it on.
Come on. What are you hearing, Lonnie? What matters to voters this year?
Well, there's sort of undercurrents of themes that have always been around, and one of the things that we have, and I discussed this a lot when I was still in the legislature, is resiliency. The increase of storms, your grand list. I mean, some people go, oh, those people who live on the water, that's your grand list. I mean, that's where the big tax base comes from. And so, when those people get scared and they want to, and the sound is coming to take their property, and they leave and nobody else can buy it, that's an issue that is ongoing. And I hear I chair the board for the Connecticut Green Bank now, and we hear this a lot. There's just a real concern about, and we're actually in Brranford working on resiliency issues. And then the other thing that I hear a lot about is how loud pickleball paddles are.
Oh, man.
Pickleball paddles, and, of course, people love it, and it's hugely popular. But it's like, well, somebody's got to do something about the pickleball paddles. And I just start laughing.
Wait, the pickleball noise?
The pickleball noise.
Yeah, it's very loud.
It's very loud, and it's everywhere
courts.
now. I mean, they're
There's
everywhere,
courts.
and
But
I
there's
love them, and I like stuff like that.
Well,
but-
there's courts that have been approved by planning and zoning, new in Brranford, and also the old
Indoor.
Oh, the indoor courts,
indoor.
yes. Those are the indoors, yeah.
And also
That
the
will help with the
Walmart.
noise.
Also, the Walmart in Guilford, as you know, that's going to become a target. But for the next year, they have pickleball inside. The one in Brranford has one outdoor pickleball court. The rest of them are inside. So there will be some noise from the new Brranford facility. But it's America's most popular sport now. All of a sudden, it came out of nowhere.
That and our town, we have an aging demographic in this town, and you see a lot of people are kind of transitioning from tennis into pickleball.
Yeah, that's
so that's happening a lot.
Exactly.
And, so.
What are I've lived in Brranford since I believe it was 1997, and even in the time that I've been here, well, it's been a long time. I'm getting older now, a little grayer, but I've seen how Route 1 has built up, and businesses. I see more businesses building up, and what is the reaction from people in Brranford to the way Brranford is becoming more population dense? What are you both hearing?
Well, I heard from people when I was door knocking that there is concern about the amount of development. They feel like sometimes the small town feel that people move to Brranford for is being somewhat lost. There's some very large projects that are being built under construction right now. A lot of those are going to be rental apartments. Home ownership, there's pride in home ownership. Renters, it's a different demographic. Not that that's anything's wrong with that, but it just is. That's what I'm hearing from people, that there's concern about that.
So currently, what I understand, like the banks, for some reason, they won't loan, for condominiums. They only loan for apartments. But the thing with the apartments, I've been talking about this for many years. When Judy Gott was our first selectman, one of the first things she did when she was elected, she got the Planning and Zoning Commission to reduce the number of units per acre. It was 25 or 26, and she reduced it to 21 or where it is now. It's been this way all these years. It should be further, in my opinion, be further reduced. I mean, you compare this to Guilford from the Durham line all the way to the Sound. I think the whole town is, it's all zoned for 1 acre, single family. And if you want to build, a condo or like a big complex, you have to convince their planning and zoning that it should be built. But so, I mean,
and I don't want to slight our neighbors in any way, but when I moved to Connecticut, I looked at these towns: Madison, Guilford, Brranford, New Haven, West Haven, all the way down to Milford, and we picked Brranford. I did not pick Guilford. I like what I see in Brranford is the place where I want to live is. And Brranford is much larger than Guilford.
Population-wise,
it's hard to compare the two. We're two different types of communities.
Yes, but we also have public water and public sewer.
Yes, we do.
And trash collection.
That makes a difference. And it also makes Brranford more attractive for businesses because you don't have to, where's your waste going to go? Where's your water coming from?
Well,
you don't have a well.
When you talk about rental units, I used to head the bioscience caucus when I was in the legislature, and the bioscience folks are telling me they want more rental apartments because they're recruiting PhDs from MIT and young people, and they don't want to buy yet, but they want to live in nice places. So the one that they're building on the river right now, that's sort of really, the one that's
the Brranford River, that's by where you live.
By where
that's
I live.
being finished finally, right?
There's just a lot of bioscience looking at that for their folks.
By the train station, it's perfect for them.
I'm also curious because we talked about the difference between in home ownership, houses, apartments, condos. But what I've seen happen in the past 15 years is so many people who are younger who would like to be able to buy a house can't afford to do it nowadays.
Well, it's even worse now because, I believe that the mortgages have started to come down, but they were 8, and now they're about 7.8 or whatever. And, homes that cost, like 100 or 150 just a few years ago, they're now, 400 or 450. So, it's because of inflation, and also it's the crime that's in Manhattan and Brooklyn. They want to get out of there.
We had a lot of people move in here from New York. A lot of people.
And you can't blame them.
Post-pandemic.
And they love it.
And
they love it.
During the pandemic and post-pandemic,
yes.
I count us in that group. I grew up in Queens. Loved my old neighborhood. Like my new neighborhood, just a little better.
Just a little bit.
That's why we're there. So before we start to get those numbers back in from the totals that so many people are working behind the scenes to put together, let's try to go back to that ballot graphic so we can let people know who's running. So let's get that back up on the screen. Let's pick up where we left off. And looking at the candidates in columns 5, 6, and 7 on our Brranford ballots, the candidates for the Board of Education.
For the Democrats, we have Sean Tiernan, Judith Barron, and Ram Shrestha. And for the Republicans, we have Kevin Reese, Adam Greenberg, and Laura Troido.
I have a question, another one for our analysts about the Board of Ed here in Brranford. Please explain how the people who are running for the Board of Ed tonight, the differences between those running in columns 5 and 6 and the people running in column 7.
Okay, well, you want me to take it, Teresa?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
Right, well, it's the difference in terms, Leon.
Yes.
5 and 6 are full 6-year terms.
While Frank is explaining that, can we show that ballot graphic on the screen? Frank, please continue with your explanation.
All right, sir. Well, I just wanted to point out, first of all, everybody in 5 and 6 is new. They're not incumbents. They're all trying for the first time to get a 6-year term on the board. Now, there's an opening for a 2-year term, right? It's to tag on to a full 6-year term. The person has stepped down, and there's 2 years left in that person's term. So that's what column 8. That's what the race is between Ram Shrestha and Laura Troido.
What the Secretary of the State mentioned earlier was, as we move forward, it gets harder and harder to find people to run for offices. Is that part of what has happened here with the Board of Ed? Is that why Ram Shrestha is running for RTM and running for the Board of Ed?
It's also because even though there's great opportunity as a candidate, a lot of people aren't interested in participating. Yeah. It's really unfortunate.
Why are you hearing that is the sentiment?
It takes a lot of time and effort. Some people have young families. They have busy lives, busy jobs, and as the community ages, if I can put it that way, there are more people who tend to participate once they retire. But even then, it's great to have a mix of people, and sometimes you just can't find people to run for these offices, which is unfortunate.
The thing is, as we've discussed, Leon, about 10 years ago, there was a serious push to reduce the length of time of the terms. That's up to the towns. That's not ordered by the state. We have 6-year Board of Education terms. It could be 4. I mean, there's other towns.
But it's staggered. They're staggered terms.
Yeah, they're staggered terms. Right. But the idea is, I'm not doing a 6-year term. That's too long. I'll do 4 maybe, or 2, but I won't do 6. So, you could try that. Reduce the length down to 4, maybe.
You mentioned the work that it has to go in, and it's volunteer. But this sounds very much like the conversation I had with Don Conklin, one of our registrars, in the Republican registrar's office a week or so ago.
Deputy registrar.
Deputy registrar.
Yeah, right. Yep.
What he explained to me, his personal journey, as he got older, and he had more time, and you're done raising the family, you find you have more time to participate in local
contribute.
Government.
Yes.
And contribute in that way.
Absolutely.
All right, can we get the ballot graphic up? Oh, we have a little information here. Okay, so so our live reporters in the field are switching. So Victoria Verderame, which party claims Victoria? Because
Republican.
Republican. Oh, it's the Republican Party. So we will not be hearing from Ray Ingraham. We will be hearing from Victoria Verderame.
Okay.
So let's call for Victoria and not for Ray. But let's get that ballot back up on the screen because we are now up to column 8. Lonnie, you take that one.
Okay, so that category is the Board of Assessment Appeals for the Democrats. In column 8, we have Joseph Vizino. And for the Republicans, we have Jason Driscoll. Our analyst. Do you have any comments about this position?
I do. Well, first of all, they're both incumbents. And the other thing is, even though you vote for one, they both get on. They both get on. So
okay, so
that's interesting.
So
I hadn't thought about that.
How does that work? Well,
it's just,
I don't know.
It's just the Brranford
Nobody
way.
loses.
The Brranford way.
No one loses.
That's true for this race, Leon.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Tracy and Frank, once again. So moving on in the ballots, there next are columns 9, 10, 11, and 12, the constables. Ladies and gentlemen, this has got to be, I think, my favorite category because I knew that I would get the chance to ask Frank and Tracy, why on earth do we have constables? We have a police department. They do pretty darn well. Why constables?
Well, want me to take that?
It's probably in the charter. I don't know.
There you go.
It's in the state statute. There are 2 types of constables. There's the elected and the appointed. These are elected. Now, of the 8 candidates, let's go down. First of all, the incumbent is Francis Walsh, the former principal at the middle school.
Yes.
Underneath is
For
George.
whom the school's named.
Yes.
For the school's name. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay,
The intermediate school now. Francis Walsh Intermediate School.
Okay, so then also, so the other 2 incumbents there of the 8 are George Wedded, and Dennis Nardella. Now, they all win except for one there.
Right.
And all the rest of them they're trying out for the first time. But to answer your question, they're really, they can serve process. They can serve court papers. And it's a prestige position. I'm a constable in the town of Brranford.
I Yes, I would not argue prestigious. Thank you. We wish all the constables luck, and we thank them. We thank them for their difficult work. So we now have. I guess we're going to try to get that live report from Republican headquarters, and let's see if we can get Victoria Verderame. Is Victoria ready to give us an update from what's going on from the Republican side? No, she is not ready yet. So is it possible that we might be able to get a live shot from, it's not Kevin Coughlin, but it will be Ray Dunbar.
Ray Dunbar.
Is it possible? No, Ray's not ready yet either. Oh, I gotta love live television.
They want a formal invitation.
Yes. All right. So I know our producers will let us know when either one of those live shots is available. For the viewers just tuning in, I'm Leon Collins, and welcome to BCTV's live election night coverage from the BCTV studios here on Kirkham Street. And here's my co-host. She's going to tell you her name.
My name is Lonnie Reed, and so are we? This is a good time to show the 7 voting districts here in town, right?
Yeah, let's get that map up because I know that everyone knows. Yeah, the voting district map for the entire town. Okay. Typically, people know the district where they live. I, for example, do know that I live in District 3 over in Short Beach, down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. But let's start with Tracy. Tracy, in the first district, do we have a name that we associate with this area?
Oh gosh, don't put me on the spot.
I'm sorry, too late.
Oh my gosh, it's like Brranford History 101. I don't think that
Frank,
there is.
What are we
there
calling
was
District
something
1?
called
I call it the center.
Brranford
the
Center.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, that's your district, right?
Yes.
Your first district.
Yes, he should know.
So he would know. So let's ask
Thank you,
Frank.
Frank.
We went to the right one there. So Frank, if you could describe the characteristics of voting District 1 for us, just briefly. How is that different from the other parts of Brranford?
Well, the first district, Leon, is, I think, as far as land area, it's one of the biggest ones. And on the RTM, it has, it's one of the top districts for RTM members. The first district sends 6 representatives to the RTM of 30. So, but anyway, it starts, up at the North Brranford town line. It starts at the peak. You know how the town goes up in a point? It starts right there to the right of that point and comes all the way down, really all the way down, straight down, across the turnpike, and it ends at the river, the Brranford River. So it's a big district.
And Tracy, let's talk a little bit about, let's keep it in number order. The second voting district over on the east side of Brranford, the characteristics of that for the people who aren't aware. What do we? Can we agree on what we would call that portion?
Well, it's Stony Creek. Yeah, Stony Creek.
Stony Creek.
Yep.
Okay.
Stony Creek. It's primarily a Democratic district.
Yeah.
Heavily Democrat over there?
Heavily Democrat in that district.
Well, and that's an important point to make, is that there has to be a member of the other party from every district.
Yes.
So even if people only voted for Democrats, the Republican would still need to be.
No, that's absolutely right. In fact, that's something, right? At the time that the people, they wrote our charter, this was in the 60s. They made allowance for minority representation. You're right. There are towns where there isn't any minority representation, on either the RTM or the Legislative Council or the Town Council. So that was very smart that that the writers of the charter put in. But anyway, as far as District 2, you're right. It's Democrat. They send 3 representatives to the RTM, and it's usually 2 Democrats and 1
Republican.
Yeah, from the minority, So it's like split like that, It's 2 and 1. And all the districts, they have that, the minority.
Sure. Let's get that map up again, because I want to talk about my neighborhood. Voting district number 3, down in the bottom left-hand corner, Short Beach.
Short Beach.
I tell you, we love it there. We love it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I can tell you that Short Beach is a walking neighborhood, tight-knit community, people working together.
Yeah, it's a beach town, too, down there. The restaurants.
Back in the 1920s, it was the place to go.
Yeah.
Some of those old, larger homes were actually hotels where people from New York would come on up. But I'm going to stop talking about that because Victoria's ready for her live shot.
Ready for her.
Victoria.
Her moment.
Oh, my gosh. Please, Victoria, help us out.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Victoria. So good to see you at Lenny's this evening.
Tonight?
We're
good.
doing well.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How's everybody? Lonnie, Leon, nice to see everybody. Tracy, Frank.
Good to see you
We're all
too.
good.
So give us a sense of what's happening there at Republican headquarters at Lenny's tonight, Victoria, please.
So, of course, our first selectman, Jamie Cosgrove, is running unopposed. So Jamie and Angie and Lisa are all guaranteed their seats. So right now what we're focusing on is watching the bottom of the ticket, our RPM seats and our Board of Education seats, as well as Deb Conklin's seat, who is our current treasurer, who is an incumbent running for re-election. So right now we're just waiting for the numbers to come in and analyzing as they come.
Yeah, we're waiting for the same numbers, Victoria. What are you hearing about turnout?
Turnout is about average for a municipal election, about 32%, which is average for a municipal year.
Okay. Lonnie, you have any good questions for Victoria before we try to get the opposing side in?
Are they serving lobster?
Well, no, I just ordered a scallop salad, so I'm very much looking forward to that because all I've had to eat today is a granola bar. So.
You're going to love that.
No, we definitely don't want to hold you up from the scallop salad. Victoria, we would like to get back to you in a short while before our show wraps for one more quick live hit. Do you promise you'll come back for us?
I promise I'll come back, Leon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for helping us out with the broadcast tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Victoria.
Take care.
And again, for our viewers at home, I'll say this one, maybe two or three more times. If you are watching us on YouTube, please, please, please hit the subscribe button. We want you to become part of our BCTV streaming family because so many more people are streaming their news today. That's got to roll with the times.
Important.
They cut the cable.
Well, we did at one point a couple of years ago, so that's how I
You can't say that on BCTV.
Well, but I can say it to the streaming audience.
Look at the accent.
We're here for you, streamers.
We're here for everyone.
We're here for everyone.
And for everybody.
Everyone. Is it possible that we might be able to have Ray Dunbar? Is he available? From our control room? Are we working on that? Okay, so I'll tell you what, while we're working on, not yet, but we're working on it. Let's go back to the district map where we were talked about Short Beach a bit. I'm sorry, Frank, you had something you wanted to say.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to mention, Leon, that we could go to Tracy because she's got the preliminary numbers for the 5th, but we can't declare anybody a winner.
No, so these are unofficial totals.
Well, these are official totals. I was sent a picture of the tape, which when the polls close at 8 o'clock, they print out the tape as to what the numbers are.
Run with it, please.
And that's without the absentee ballots.
There are 60 absentee ballots in the 5th district. And remember, Brranford's 5th district, I represent the 5th. I was reelected. According to the machine total, I got 596 votes. Ray Ingraham, who is the Republican Party chair, he got 608 votes on the machines. John Hartwell, Democrat, one of my running mates.
Yeah, he's new.
He got 579.
Yes.
Alex Larson, who's also a Democrat.
And new.
Got 576. Dennis Flanagan, who has served on the RTM, the longest-serving RTM member, 40 years, he told me today. He got 571.
Yes.
Carolyn Sires got 562 on the machine. And Abigail Adams, who's also a Democrat, she got 572. So these are very close numbers. This is why, when people say every vote counts, every vote counts.
I see.
Yeah.
The numbers are running very tight.
The numbers are very tight. Of course, we don't know what the absentees are going to do in terms of what the vote. There are only
60 of those.
There's only 60, but we're all within a small margin of one another.
Yeah.
So those absentee ballots are going to make a big difference.
Thank you so much.
Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So you're 596.
Yeah, that's great.
Congratulations, Tracy.
You do a good job.
So Lonnie, we had to take things a bit out of order this evening with some of the live shots not coming in when we wanted them. But I know one thing that you prepared for viewers tonight, and you mentioned resiliency, and we talked about how the Cosgrove Animal Shelter is for the way they use energy.
Yeah, it was the first net zero animal shelter in the United States.
Country.
And we have so many municipalities, I think every municipality in the country, with concerns along those lines. Lonnie, I know one of the many hats you wear is as a key person working with Connecticut's Green Bank. Would you please tell the viewers a bit about your interview with the CEO and president of the Green Bank?
Okay, so we're teeing that up?
Yes, we are.
Good. So this is an intro?
No,
okay,
so that was a hint to the control room to have that package ready when Lonnie stops talking. Thank you.
So actually, it's a pleasure of mine. The governor appointed me chairman of the board of the Connecticut Green Bank, and we're a private public agency. So in other words, we're allowed to bring in private investment. And we're at a point now, I think, where for every public dollar, we bring in 8 private dollars. And so we've done really remarkable things. And we're spending a lot of time in Brranford. And Brian Garcia is the president and CEO of the Connecticut Green Bank. And what is she saying?
And we'll get back to the Brian Garcia package in just a second because we've got a live shot.
Now we have Ray Dunbar.
Now we have Ray Dunbar. Hold that Brian Garcia thought, everyone. Let's see if we can get Ray Dunbar Jr. up on the screen. Ray, are you there, sir? Oh, my goodness. Look at that. I'd love it if I could hear you, though. Hang on. We're working on that audio. Say that again. Can we hear you? Ray, talk to us.
We can barely hear you here because of the noise in the background.
Oh, wow.
Oh, we can hear you very well. We can hear you very well.
I don't know exactly what happened, but there's a lot of clearing going on at the moment. I'm just not sure for what area.
Okay. So, Ray, what can you tell us in general about what you've heard there at Democrat headquarters in Brranford tonight?
There seems to be a lot of close races. I know they were waiting for one district to report, and then of course they also have to wait for the absentees. But if the numbers stay the same, it looks like we picked up some seats on the RTM. But it's still so close. It's too early to tell.
So Ray, Frank Toohill from the Republicans is here with us tonight. And he mentioned that ratio of Democrats as opposed to Republicans on the RTM. So it's looking like that ratio will change tonight. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, that's the way it's looking right now. But again, it's too early to say for sure because we're waiting on absentee ballots.
Okay, which way is it going? So is it going more your way or their way?
We can't hear with the noise.
Who's happier, Republicans or Democrats?
Democrats.
That's okay. Yeah. Tracy answered the question for you, Ray. Congratulations.
Thanks, Ray. Ray's looking hopeful. That's a sign. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thanks so much, Ray.
Thank you so much.
We lost 2 RTM seats the last time Jamie ran unopposed 4 years ago. So, it's kind of expected to lose.
Do you think that's related to the slightly lower voter turnout?
Yeah, absolutely.
He runs unopposed, voter turnout drops down.
Right.
Exactly.
You're right.
But I can also tell you at the doors, I had a lot of people tell me that they were going to vote straight Democrat. Mm-hmm. Because of what's happening at the national level in particular.
That's interesting.
And they did not want to vote for any Republicans.
Okay.
So
I'm not surprised to hear that with the way partisan politics has become even more polarized these days.
Right.
Do you find that people are they listening to each other?
You know, at the RTM level, we certainly do, but that's the municipal level. Mm-hmm. It's what's happening in Washington is a lot of it is driven by the media coverage too. It's become a different place. Here in Brranford, we're still doing the small town legislating and governing. So it's different.
Right. Mm-hmm. Lonnie, you want to get back to the Brian Garcia intro?
Brian Garcia. So one of the things that a lot of people care about in both parties is cleaning up the environment, green energy, doing the kinds of things that we need to do to save not only our present but our future. Yeah. And so I started to talk about Brian Garcia, who is the president and CEO of the Connecticut Green Bank. And we're just working a lot at the municipal level, which is another reason why it's important to elect people to these offices who get it, and really understand all the opportunities that are out there that they need to go after. And so I would love to hear our conversation with Brian Garcia. So talk a little bit about community engagement and what you're doing and how it helps when the community is really on board.
Yeah, I think every time when we talk about clean energy and climate change, we're talking about these really big debates. Sometimes globalization comes in, but it's really about localization. I think there's something like 130 different towns that are sustainable communities that are pursuing different activities, involving their citizens and helping them do those activities. So it's certainly fundamental to our efforts here at the Connecticut Green Bank to engage people where they are.
I know when we were trying to get in Brranford, and we've had a lot of really, active community members, citizen folks who really know about this stuff. And it took a while to kind of get the town to really, and now, it's
all the way down to its dog shelters, from what I
all the way down to the dog shelters, and very bipartisan. I mean, everybody's working together on these things, and they're very excited about it. I'm now with the Green Bank, and we're so happy. We want to do more and more and more to really help defray the cost of energy, and also make places cleaner. So now in the new animal shelter, the new Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter, tell us your goal.
So we really would like to be net zero. We have always believed in reduce, reuse, recycle anyways. It's an interesting concept only because we are really rehoming animals that have been brought in because they're no longer wanted. So it's the same concept. It's like reduce, reuse, recycle. So we're rehoming these animals, and we came in and we said we want to do the same thing with the energy, is make sure we're using as least as possible and being thoughtful about all of it.
And you would think, it amazes me when I hear, you'll get a call for a hoarding situation. 40 cats. You have to go take in 40 cats immediately. And you start to think of the expense of all of that.
Absolutely.
And to be able to save money in any way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of the Green Bank, we were lucky enough to get a grant for those solar water heaters.
We can help provide them with assistance to weatherize their buildings, to make their buildings more energy efficient. The more we can provide that investment in the deployment of clean energy, the more they're going to be able to realize energy savings by pursuing clean energy technology. So, that shelter is a perfect example of how to help nonprofit organizations really focus on what they do best, which is taking care of, our dogs and cats that we all love and adore. Right now in Connecticut's solar market is growing rapidly, really rapidly. And as more and more families and businesses install energy efficient appliances and equipment, more solar PV panels, they're going to reduce their energy costs by doing it, and they're going to help everybody else societally and environmentally by doing it as well. So all the opportunities out there, we just have to grab it, and our municipalities are right at the front line of doing that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you for having me.
You know, Lonnie, I'm so glad that you and Annie, who worked on that package, included the shot of the solar panels here in Brranford. That makes me feel good, because I know when I go out on the road, and for some reason, whenever we go to Massachusetts, I seem to see them all over the place, and I wish that we had more of that here. And it's good to see us starting to show maybe some other towns how to use what's there for everyone.
Well, and that's a solar field, and I think one of the reasons that some towns don't have solar fields is people don't want to see them. But ours is tucked away in, the former landfill, all of that property, and we were able to tuck it away. And the first selectman is going to talk a bit about how much the town is saving.
Because that's the last package we have. We're saving the best for last. That you did of those three stories.
Yeah.
What are you, Frank and Tracy, hearing from viewers along the lines of concerns for the environment? And I'll tell our viewers, you can start to watch the bottom of your screens. We're getting the totals in now.
Well, to answer your question, Leon, what happened was recent, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, First Selectman Cosgrove, he created 2 ad hoc green committees, if you will, coastal resiliency and the clean energy ad hoc. And so those are groups, that are working on the problems, the situations. The other thing, too, I was at the Board of Finance meeting October 30th, and I believe that the consultants stated that the Coastal Resiliency Fund that we have is now, I think they said $2.3 million. So what they use that for is if there's any properties that become like distressed, from the waves and the rising water, that they can use that to purchase the property,
Right.
But actually, I sit on the Coastal Vulnerability Ad Hoc Committee, and part of that fund was used to do a study to harden the sewage treatment plant.
Yes.
Because Brranford sewage treatment plant is in a flood zone.
It's exposed.
So it's very important. It's down by Bruce and Johnson's off Block Island Road.
That's right.
It's very important for us to be looking towards the future, because everybody wants their waste to flow in the right direction.
Yeah, that's right. Important.
Right? I mean, you have
you
don't always think about that, but you need to think about
and
that.
quite frankly, that's why the beaches were closed a little bit over the summer, was because there had been so much rain, an overflow situation from the sewage treatment plant, which is happening all over. That's old infrastructure everywhere. We remember when they first, years and years ago, this is before your time, of course.
Yeah, that's us.
But they started to build sewage treatment plants. We go, oh, we're there, Well, that was a long time ago, and this stuff needs to be updated, upgraded, elevated, and everything else.
Yes. Well, and as someone who lives in a house that's less than 1,000 feet from the Long Island Sound, an insurance company told me that because they wouldn't give us insurance, we had to go find a different insurance company that would. I'll tell you something that concerns me. And even without it being a rainy day, I remember sometime within the past 2 months driving to Guilford on Route 146, and it was at astronomical high tide.
Yes.
It was during a full moon. And 146 is under salt water.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the right angle turn there when it goes under the trestle.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. That's scary.
Yes.
Well, right. And that's being studied. In fact, there's a meeting at the Green Community Center in Guilford next Tuesday night about 146.
The 14th, November 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got that,
Yeah.
Okay, the last thing that Lonnie and I have to make sure we share with the viewers, because we want to make sure we mention all the candidates' names, are the RTM candidates. So, Lonnie, let's start with get that ballot up on the screen so that we can show in District 1. But, Doug, we want to make sure we can show people the District 1 ballot. So, everybody, look over at the right-hand side. This is where the ballots in the 7 voting districts in Brranford start to differ in the 4 columns you have on the right. So, Lonnie, you go ahead and take it from there with this.
Okay, in District 1, for Democrats, we have Judith Barron, Mark McCall, Kevin Coughlin, and Elisa Waterman. And for the Republicans, we have Shannon Sharkey, Lindsay Greenberg, Frank Toohill, I've heard that name, and Tricia Anderson.
Excellent. So let's change that to voting District 2. And I want to let the voters know, there it is, a little smaller option there in District 2 for the Democrats. We have Joshua Brooks and Peter Henschel. For the Republicans, we have Stephen Chamberlain and Chris Hines. And we'll move on to the next one for Lonnie, voting District 3.
In voting District 3 for Democrats, we have Adrienne Bonenberger and Tom Keffey. I believe is how we pronounce it.
Keefe.
Oh, that's Keefe?
Yes.
Keefe. Oh,
Keefe.
It looks like Keffey.
No, I saw him today. He said it was Keefe.
Okay, great. Tom Keefe is running. And for the Republicans, we have Peter Black and Ralph Murray.
Great. So for the voters in District 4, let's change the ballot. Yes, there we go. For the Democrats, we have Dan Edelman, Shahida Sumra, Ram Shrestha, and Marianne Amore. For the Republicans, we have Terrell Imperato, Victoria Verderame, Sharon Newpain, and Karen Hess. And Lonnie, go ahead.
And in District 5 for the Democrats, we have John Hartwell, Abigail Adams, Tracy Everson, another familiar name,
yes,
and Alex Larson. For the Republicans, we have Carolyn Sires, Dennis Flanagan, Ray Ingraham, and Kyle Nelson.
In District 6, for the Democrats, we have Chad Edgar, Chris Sullivan, and Nancy McCormick. For the Republicans, Anthony Alfone, Gino Papalizio, and Joseph Lafredo.
And finally, in District 7, running for a position in the representative town meeting for the Democrats, we have Donna Leitch, Susan Dayhill, and for the Republicans, we have Kevin Healy and Barbara Maresca.
So for our viewers at home, for those of you just tuning in, we had one of our interviewers who works here at BCTV go around and interview voters today about why they were voting, what they cared about. And we'd like to share with you what we heard from voters who are willing to speak on camera today, if we could run that package. Thanks.
So many people have said that they will not be voting this year.
So
Can you tell
we're
me
going
why
back
you
to
decided to come out to vote?
Do we know what these totals are? Are some of these are starred? Does that mean that those are considered the winners? Can you get?
Every time we vote, it's our right, it's our privilege as citizens, and we have to try to change this country to get it on a better track.
Voting for me this year was most important for the Board of Ed.
Rain, snow, I don't care what it is, I always come out to vote.
Why do you think it's important for people to vote in local elections?
Because that's where you really have the most say.
We have to try to control what happens from the bottom up in terms of our government and keep our town on track.
We live in the town, and we want to make sure that the community is growing and it's financially managed correctly. And
This is politics that involves what's going on in our day-to-day lives in town.
From the anchor chair.
You're going to need a vacay after
it's
this.
no
I'm just
secret
saying.
that I'd like to have one or both of our live shots as soon as we can get that. But Frank and Tracy, what did you hear that were the most important things? Oh, sorry, never mind, because Victoria's ready.
Oh, great.
Hold that thought.
All right.
Victoria Verderame from Lenny's Republican headquarters. We are so glad to have you back.
Good evening, folks. Great to be.
So what can you tell us, Victoria? What has developed since we last spoke with you? We'd love to get what we can from you before we wrap this show shortly.
Absolutely. So more numbers come in, as you guys have seen too, but of course nothing is final until those absentee ballots are counted.
Oh, we're sorry we had that shot freeze up. But our control room was just explaining to me that when you look at the bottom of the screen, these are the numbers that we're getting in. As Victoria said, these are unofficial totals tonight. But with the number with the when we have an asterisk like that, Tracy and Frank, do you want to explain to the viewers what the asterisk means for those totals?
As it was explained by the control room, it's before the absentees. We don't have those absentee numbers.
Okay, so the asterisk is minus the absentee totals.
But that is who is leading
But that's
right
who's leading.
now
That's the
in
latest
the vote
count. And we
count.
have nothing in for District 1 yet, I believe, was what we were also
Yeah.
told. So that is still unknown quantities to us at this point in time. But we know we have now. We have Ray Dunbar Jr., who's ready to give us another live shot, his final effort for tonight from Democrat headquarters at Kamana in downtown Brranford. Ray, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Oh, thank you, sir. What can you tell us before we lose you this evening? What's the latest?
Schedule. We're supposed to go till 2.
Well, there's a lot of happy people that are biting their nails waiting for the absentee ballots to come in.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of close races, and it's going to come down to the absentees as to what takes place.
When do you expect to get those absentee numbers so you'll know for sure?
Well, my understanding is the absentees they've been counted, you know, but we just haven't received them yet. Apparently there's a lot of pages or a lot of pictures that need to be sent. So we're hopeful soon, but we're still waiting.
Ray, we thank you so much for being willing to work with us. We know it was thrust upon you, I believe, even after our broadcast began. We really do appreciate the way you've played along with us, sir. Thank you again.
Thank all of you, too. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and
Ray.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So before we talk any more about the totals, Lonnie, that last interview that you did, we got to show this to viewers.
Oh, yes.
You spoke with our first selectman.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, you know, and actually we've worked together for years as well, and he's about to go into his 12th year, and I really wanted to get a sense of where he's been and where he is, and you know, it's an interesting interaction with Jamie. He's really, you know, relaxed and really sort of speaking of the things that he really cares about in this town. So let's see the interview with Jamie Cosgrove, the first selectman yet again. So 10 years you've been doing this.
Yeah, since 2013 in this position.
Oh, man. And I remember when you were first sworn in, your daughters were small.
Yeah, they're growing up now. My older daughter, she's in her second year of college, and my younger daughter just is her freshman year at Brranford High School. And I remember actually that first term walking through Walsh Intermediate
After
School.
this package,
and that
we're
was one of
wrapping
the
show.
projects
All
that
right.
we were planning on
We're gonna wrap the show
undertaking. And
after
she
this
was
pack.
just going into her first year at Walsh as a fifth grader. And I remember saying, oh, we're going to redo this school. And, you know,
You'll be gone, but
support of the community. Yeah, I know. My younger daughter got to enjoy it. She was there when it was, when they transitioned over.
yeah. I always remember Ava from the smallest, I think maybe she was 7, started singing the Star Spangled Banner at events.
Yeah,
this tiny little thing with this huge voice.
Yes, she definitely has a gift. And she sung the national anthem at a number of events. And I've always been amazed is that, you know, she does she's nervous going in, but she overcomes that and gets up there. And that's just remarkable. I think. I mean, doing this for 10 years and I still get a little nervous getting up in front of the microphone and addressing the crowd and public speaking. That's right? It's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and you know, quite frankly, I always think if I'm not nervous, I'm not there.
Right.
You're like, you need to give it the importance that it's due.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I was thinking of so many things that have happened since you've been since I was in office as well. And I remember we had to get the virtual net metering.
Oh, you adjusted, right?
Because of redoing the landfill and creating a solar field and generating electricity that the municipal buildings could take advantage of.
Through working with you, and you were very instrumental in kind of expanding that cap. So, municipalities such as Brranford were able to take advantage of that program. And it has been, we probably save anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year in electric costs at that one meter.
Solar is this big global idea, right? And, clean energy, but it's in the municipalities, which is where it happens, which is so great that Brranford was out in front of that early on.
Yeah. We have a very active group here in Brranford, volunteers that work with staff and other organizations to kind of move many of these projects forward. So our volunteer base here in Brranford has been very important in a lot of the things that we've been able to accomplish within the town.
What have you learned doing this job that you didn't know going in? I think we all have an idea of we're going to, public service and what it's going to be like and what it's not going to be like. And what surprised you the most?
Well, when I came in, I came in at a time where there were a number of projects. We mentioned Walsh Intermediate School being one, and there were some other projects that, I think the town was, there was a desire to move forward with. And I felt that I can contribute to moving those projects forward. But what has probably surprised me is that there are a lot of other projects, or there are a lot of other smaller things that are very important to people. We often focus on what we see. You mentioned the animal shelter, the Walsh Intermediate School, the community center project. But if you look at what we've done recently, even out here on the town green, just bringing in tables, the pollinator gardens that are next that we've recently planted. Those are little things that really don't cost a lot, don't really, it's not a real drain on resources, but yet are greatly appreciated by the community. And I think those are things where don't ever lose focus on the small things, because they really mean a lot in terms of building a community, a vibrant community, a place that people are proud of. Track record shows we've been able to move forward with a lot of great initiatives, projects here in the town of Brranford.
Thank you. I just want to say, I talked to Jamie also about civility issues, and he agrees with you too. He said, you know what? Push comes to shove, we all work together. He said occasionally there's a meeting where there's a little bit of something that gets a little out of control, but everybody reins it in, comes together, and works together. So
that's true. I have to tell you, is it you or is it Jamie Cosgrove's office that makes him feel so comfortable? He seemed so relaxed when you were talking to him. Tell us about that.
Well, I think I said, well, do it in the office. I'm not putting you in a. But beyond that, we've worked together, as everybody does, and we've worked together on some serious stuff, and so I think that was part of it as well.
I do know that we have Victoria Verderami. Her live shot got cut off. Victoria, so glad you came back. We didn't want you to leave that way.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
What can you tell us, Victoria?
So we're still looking at the numbers as they're coming in, and of course still waiting on the absentee ballots, which are going to determine, I think, the temperature of the room. But so far we're feeling pretty good.
Great. Yeah, we know the absentee ballots and District 1 are the numbers that I believe that are being held up. Are you're in that same holdup as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wish we could have those, but we don't. But Victoria, thank you so much for reporting for us live from Republican headquarters for 2023. We do appreciate your help with this broadcast. We thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure talking to all of you tonight.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
One thing I didn't want to forget to do is to thank all of the people who serve in offices. Thank you two. And we really have to thank the people who work in the registrar's office, the people who work at the polling locations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you know why you really need to thank them? Voting machines are still running on Windows 95.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
So the fact that we get any results is amazing to me. And I sure hope that the state comes together and helps municipalities across Connecticut get some updated software so that things can run even more smoothly moving forward.
Right.
Well,
they are this year for the first time at the polls in Brranford. Excuse me, they were using laptops to record who was voting in real time. Wow. So in real time, you could tell what the vote counts were.
Sure.
Yeah. So I was following in my district all day, like how many people have voted, how many I was told how many Democrats, how many Republicans.
Wow.
And that was all being tabulated during the day. So hopefully that's going to improve what happens here next year.
I sure do, because I think many more people will be watching on Tuesday night.
I have to say, I've got one quick return. If anybody, everybody should remember Pat Widlitz, who was also
Guilford.
a state representative, representing part of Brranford and Guilford, and her daughter Stacy Widlitz, who has returned from a European. She was working in Europe for several years, and they've returned, and they've moved. She and her husband and her little girl have moved to Old Greenwich, and tonight she won a seat on the Board of Education.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
And that's how her mom got started. Her mother got started
The
by,
Guilford Board of Ed?
The Guilford Board of Ed.
Wow.
So Stacy Widlitz is on her way.
Congratulations, Stacy.
She was the rep before Sean Scanlon, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
For several years.
Yeah.
Well, Frank and Tracy, we want to thank you both so much for helping us through our broadcast tonight. It was a learning experience with our local historian.
Thank you.
And we still don't have the first district returns, but I'm guessing.
Yeah.
No, thank you too, Leon. I mean, this is all volunteer.
Frank has served for 35 years.
Yeah, wow.
On the representative
Frank, thank
town
you for
meeting.
your service.
Hopefully 37.
Exactly. He's the second longest serving.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I do know that statistic.
That's good. And Tracy, we know that you put in a lot of hard hours too.
Yeah, I know. She does a great job as minority leader,
Thank you so much.
It's not easy because the thing I did was, for 3 terms I was minority leader of the RTM, and it's a lot, but it's important, and it's fun too. So
it is.
Yeah.
I think before and while we're thanking people, we need to thank our crew.
Yeah.
And everybody who was out. I mean, we've pulled all these folks in, and some
Henry
of them.
Roman
had to learn a whole new.
My gosh! If the shot was just a little wider, you'd see a gentleman who just walked in here for the first time tonight. Can we go to Roman over here, who has run the teleprompter for us? We'll give Roman a little TV time. Yeah, there we go. Roman, he's the man tonight. Thank you, Roman. I know so much was thrust upon you, but sir, you came through.
Doug Sisson.
And thank you to Doug Sisson in the control room.
Yeah, thanks to Ann Chatterton, who decided to help us with the camera.
Ann Chatterton, nod the camera up and down so we know which one we're talking about. There, and there you go. There
and we have Henry.
There you go. That's Ann. That's Ann. Thank you, Ann.
And Henry, who we see at all the town meetings.
And because Henry is BCTV in Brranford, and we thank Brranford for welcoming him as your local cable access and streaming channel provides news from our community to the people who want to know it.
And then we have Kathy and Christine, and we have...
don't forget Casey. Don't forget Casey Nadelka.
And Jenna.
And Jenna, who you may know from the Blackstone Library, is here helping us get through this all. So many people. Ted Eberts, our board of directors president for BCTV.
Chip Marsh.
Chip Marsh with the numbers. I don't know how he does it.
He's always here.
And then we have Terry Elton and the entire Elton family, running numbers tonight behind the scenes.
We drafted the Elton family again.
Yes. So everyone. The last time I'm going to say, if you are watching us on YouTube tonight, hit the subscribe button because we love you. Brranford, Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Lonnie, thank you.
Thank you, Leon. It's always a pleasure working with you and with our colleagues here. It's a great
Likewise.
evening.
Excellent. Good night.
Good night,
from
everybody.
BCTV.